Episode 9 is not for young children. It's a definitely listen on your own time or with the headphones on so you're not projecting. Because we use some, Kristen more than me because I think she dropped an F-bomb pretty quickly. And I use the S word a bunch of times. So be careful with this podcast.
And also there's just a trigger warning as far as we do talk about mental health. And we do talk about the topic of suicide. So if you or anyone you know needs help.
Yeah, absolutely.
The number is 988 to get help.
We're always here for you, even on You Need to Listen.
Your glasses are unisex, or the people who work there are
unisex? Both sexes, yeah. I think I went too far, so I self-edited. Like I'm a 6th grader.
But 6th graders would actually understand this because they're on there. The gram, whichever part of that.
I never
the
heard
first
anyone...
half or the second half.
Who calls it the gram?
With? A lot of people.
Really? And then they want to live in that shit like a pig. I'd be a young whippersnapper.
And also even lower birth rates.
Yeah. No one's having sex with real people anymore. I wonder why that's going on. Because they got those sex robots that are amazing. Did you notice something about me?
You didn't even let me. This is how impatient you are. You didn't even let me do the thing.
I had like 6 coffees
where
today.
I was going to say, I noticed something different about you.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. I think it's something around here.
Yeah, glasses. New glasses.
Ooh, new glasses. Black glasses.
Yeah. I thought, it sort of updates the look a little bit because I noticed a lot of people wearing black frames.
Blacker frames?
Yeah. Well, blacker, yeah, certainly. Because you can get charcoal frames now. There's so many
but
choices.
Charcoal's not black.
So here's a quick story on this because I know this is not what we're going to talk about in the podcast. It's actually a really good podcast, episode 9.
Of the You Need to Listen podcast.
Yeah,
Welcome. He's Steve. I'm Kristen.
And which is getting fantastic reviews and raves. And people ask me about it now when I'm on the street because, I'm a man of the people. I go into the VisionWorks store at Southridge and literally in 2 minutes I picked out 3 kinds, 3 styles, and I put them in a little tray. And then the lady comes up, the nice lady. It can be a man too. It's unisex. Is that the right term? Unisex? Whatever. And I've decided on my glasses style in less than 5 minutes.
Your glasses are unisex, or the people who work there are
unisex? Both sexes, yeah.
The employees.
Multi-gender.
There's
yeah.
a man and a woman.
Multi-gender, yeah. That's a long way to saying there's men and women working there. It's like, I think you've overthought that, which leads me back to my point. Do these glasses, do you think, Kristen Bry, make me appear smarter? Because you can't really change your smartness level by
than your previous glasses.
Yeah, which were sort of what do they call that?
So like a tortoise.
Tortoise shell, yeah. Which I've gone with.
I'm going to say yes.
All right, well, thank you.
Because I think that's what you need today.
And I think they call that patronizing behavior on the preamble to the episode 9.
This is. I'm going to say yes because our conversation today is about AI friendships.
I almost spit take that.
And I feel like an AI chatbot might tell you what you want to hear.
Kiss your ass, basically.
Which is the problem, I think, with this trend. So, back up. AI. Do you use AI for anything yet?
No.
You haven't played around with ChatGPT?
I do want to, though. Yeah, I do want to. Because it's actually a great source for topics and, more importantly, how you pose topics on a show.
So I'm pretty late to the game of playing around with it. But the thing that was shocking that I did most recently was we're trying to make some decisions about our kitchen. And I'm not always the most visual person to be able to be like, oh, like this is what this would look like. So I uploaded a picture of our current kitchen and it simulated
shit's amazing,
like changing the paint or change different stuff like that. I was like, oh, that's pretty cool. But there's a lot of things you can do with different AI tools that are out there. I've barely scratched the surface with ChatGPT. There's obviously Grok. We had our funny thing on Point Taken, the first show of different names for the show that Grok came up with. But most recently,
I was going to say something that was very vulgar, but I'm not going to.
Okay.
I'm editing myself.
This is the podcast, so you can.
I know, but
where to say it if you're going to say it.
I think I went too far, so I self-edited.
So everyone's favorite dork, Mark Zuckerberg. Talk about someone with new black glasses that look terrible.
How can you be that rich and that dorky?
So they have it's called the Meta AI app, and it's like number 2 in the Apple downloads for free apps or whatever. And I have not played with that. I have not opened it. But he was on, is it Dwarkesh Patel? It's a podcast guy. And he's on there and he's talking about how there's like a friendship gap. How like most people only have 3 friends, but the appetite is something for 15 friends. First of all, I don't even know where that statistic's from. I certainly have more than 3 friends. Do you have more than 3 friends?
Yeah, it sounds right though, especially when you talk about some of the younger generations, the Gen Zers and those folks.
So, but he thinks his prediction And potentially what this meta AI is supposed to do is like bridge the gap between how many real life in IRL friends you have and the need for whatever loneliness thing people are feeling. And like loneliness can be defined in a lot of different ways of what is it that you're looking for to feel less lonely. But I think this is wildly dangerous and very much so a ploy for them to get more data to sell and use that information against you rather than actually make you feel more fulfilled with more friendship.
On the fulfillment side, unless it's a sex robot that looks like some of the sex robots you see in films, not going to happen. Like fake friends, weird generated friends. Really? I mean, that's all it takes is to create some entity that talks to you and that's your friend? Isn't friendship more about like actually face to face and doing things together and not just talking?
Well, and this is where I come back because a lot of like post-election, there was a lot of talk, at least in the worlds that I'm in, of like building community and like finding community and finding like and like this word of community. And I think that is like something that has been lost. And this is not just in reaction to a Trump administration or politics, but even in when we talk about like third spaces and we talk about, there's been more picking apart this argument, but like Vivek Murthy, who was the former U.S. Surgeon General, there was a loneliness epidemic and all of these different things as far as like where we are with our relationships. And because of a lot of people point to technology and the convenience of I can be entertained for hours without even turning on my television, right? And like the isolation of at one point you had like one radio in the house. And if you had any kind of
everyone
entertainment,
came together,
and then maybe you had one TV in the house, and then you had a TV in multiple rooms, so you didn't have to watch TV together.
Now you got 6 of these.
And the need for entertainment, the need for engagement of like a bowling night or Eagles Club or all these different things where you actually went out and like met people has eroded. And I think, but the other side of that is because actually building friendships, real friendships, not AI friendships, actually building community is not convenient, right? Like it takes something of you to show up and be a good friend and not just expect a good friendship back. Like like you need to show up and like get out of your house and do the things to like actually make that. And like what an AI bot it just creates more convenience and without the actual tangible of you needing to do anything. And that's what I actually think is really dangerous too.
It's not real. And, let me take the other side and argue Zuckerberg's point. He made his fortune on developing an app that brought people together. Supposedly,
well, now he says and he's been on record saying that that's not what the Meta does anymore. That's like not it's not about friendships at all anymore, which is...
I mean...
What do you want Facebook to be? What would you want any of these apps to be?
I want Facebook to be about family. Like, it's like a 1950s housewife, husband, that kind of a like fairy tale, the fairy tale stuff. Everyone has a happy relationship. I don't want to see...
That's what you want?
I don't want drama on Facebook. That's what I'm saying. You get what I'm going? No drama. I don't want to know that you're divorced. I don't want to know that your kid's sick.
Was it ever like that?
No, of course not.
Okay.
Because I live that's a fairy tale reality. But you asked me what I would like.
Why would you
because
want
it's
that?
pleasant. It's like if I'm going to spend time diverting myself from my life, my real life, actual life, the existence we all face every day, I don't want negativity. I want fun. So when I look at my Facebook, I've scrubbed out all the nonsense. If you're a political junkie, I'm probably not. I either snoozed you or I got rid of you a long time ago. If you're talking about stuff that not interest me, I'll still be friends, but I don't see anything you post. That's my Facebook. It's like this dreamland of the 1950s where everyone's happy about everything. Now, we know the reality is, even in the 1950s, women, not so happy. But the image is of a peaceful, very tranquil setting. That's what I like my Facebook to be.
Okay.
Now, I'm probably unique in that because a lot of people love the drama. Do you like the drama? I don't.
Trying to think if I mean, I would say So, like, the drama to keep this local to Wisconsin, have you followed all this drama of the drunk uncle in West Dallas?
Yeah, sure.
So, like, that kind of, like...
That's interesting?
I think well, it's not interesting, but it's easy to fall down those rabbit holes when you're... like, this is the... Now I'm laughing. Because my instinct is to say, no, I don't like the drama. But... You're not on TikTok, so you don't know. You won't. I'll try to have to explain this to you, like you've.
Like I'm a sixth grader.
But sixth graders would actually understand this because they're on there.
Boom.
So like every once in a while, I'll get on TikTok, and I'm checking it less than I used to.
What does that mean? How many times less? How many times a day?
Some days right now I'm not checking it at all.
Good for you.
And so like Instagram, my problem is Instagram, less so TikTok these days.
Insta.
The gram, whichever part of that.
I never heard
the first half or the second half.
Who calls it the gram?
A lot of people.
Really?
Yeah, get with it.
The hip people.
So like on TikTok, TikTok is like much of its own world that there's sides of TikTok. Like there's black TikTok and there's queer TikTok and like and once you're in these certain like the kind of the algorithm is feeding you, there's stars within that world, and then there ends up being like drama within that world where people are making videos about the TikTok people and their drama and like putting their 2 cents in it. And more times than not, I have never commented on, I've never made a video being like, oh, let me throw my voice into this circus. But I have found myself at times trying to get to the root cause of where this discourse started and like that drama. So I can't say like with my full chest that I don't like drama, because there's times where you're like, oh, let me try to figure this out.
That's the magic of
messy.
it. That's the magic of it. They lure you in, and so you're doing like homework on why these dust-ups have started. I don't have that same curiosity.
You don't have any like the drama, like this drama with Bill Belichick and his girlfriend.
That's funny.
That's what I mean. Like it's like when it's not people really in your life, and it's like the pop culture messiness of things and people's opinions on the messiness. None of that drama appeals to you?
I got enough shit to worry about on my own in my own life. I don't need other people's shit. Okay. And I don't want to like add that to my burden of shit that I have to carry every day. Now, I have a pretty decent life. So imagine if I don't. Now, those people may be the audience for this new version of meta-created reality where they have fake friends. Maybe they want that shit. They're curious about that shit. They want to read about that shit, and then they want to live in that shit like a pig.
I think we're conflating two different things. I think we're talking about what Facebook is currently as far as people posting updates about their life.
I'm giving you the old man version of Facebook.
And what this new thing is, which is, it's like Her. It's like Her, the movie,
yes,
right? Where
yes,
you're
I've seen the movie.
relationships
yeah.
with... And because people are already using it for therapy, right? Like you'll put in stuff, I guess, with ChatGPT, like how to, I don't know, in a very simple way. Like this is a situation I have in my romantic situation. What should I do? And like they'll craft texts for you and stuff like that, or like using it as a therapist. I have no idea. I would imagine that that's not great, especially if you talk to someone who is a therapist. But and the next step of that is you come home and you're like chatting with someone, and in a lot of ways, I understand it from the point of. When like you and I text a fair amount. I text with my husband. I text with a lot of, especially my best friend who lives in Colorado. Like most of the times that we're connecting, it's through text versus phone, like a phone or FaceTime. And so what is the difference? I can see this as far as like when I'm texting with a person who I know there's a real person on the other side, or it's like a chatbot.
Well, you raised a couple issues. One, correct me if I'm wrong, in the movie Her, it was a mental health help to this individual. He sort of solved some of his weirdness by having the fake girl.
Is that how
I think how it ended, yeah. And didn't he actually then, at some point, he actually develops a new, like a real relationship. My memory could be foggy, and all of you who are watching the You Need to Listen podcast will certainly tell us if I'm wrong. But I actually see that as a real thing. And to your point about the text and that kind of communication, sure, no communication versus some that's sort of informed and intelligent and goes both ways. I suppose that's good, but this seems like another stretch beyond that, because those are real people you're talking about, your friend in Colorado or whatever. This is like some creepy robot, AI-generated reality that who knows where that's going to go. And that's what be my concern. There's incredible stories, and one of our producers shared one of them, where you get to these stories where people these AI-generated realities sort of tell people what to do. And sometimes it's harmful to those people. That's what scares me.
And then the thing is, when something like that is held accountable? Because there was a story.
Nobody.
There was a case of this. Remember?
Right.
It was a girlfriend who basically bullied her boyfriend into suicide.
Sure.
And she was charged. And in the case of
that was done by texting, I believe.
It was over text.
Yes.
But she was on the other. She was texting things, right? So she was held accountable for the language and the conversations she was having with her boyfriend. That was a real story. So let's translate that into an AI bot that is largely learning off of the data that's in the world and also responding and can adapt to the person that it is talking to, and then suggests, why don't you just go commit suicide or whatever the verbiage would be. Is the company who owns that chatbot then held accountable?
Not right now, because there really are no rules. This is stuff that Congress has debated for a while. What's our play
how
here?
Old fucking Congress is they don't understand. You don't even understand it
No,
right now. You're pretty smart. You're young for Congress.
I'd be a young whippersnapper. This stuff is scary. That was a text example we provided where this young woman did that to her friend, supposedly, or boyfriend, whatever it was. He kills himself. What do we think is going to happen if
we got
someone...
a trigger warning on this podcast, by the way.
Yeah. It would be X-rated, or what would it be?
Just
parental
a trigger
guidance.
warning that
and
988.
Don't listen when you're taking your kids to preschool or any school. Now you interrupt. Now I forgot what I was going to say.
We're giving a text example of...
So what if, because, I don't trust Elon Musk. I've talked about this probably ad nauseum to some of our listeners in perspectives. I don't trust his motives. What if somebody who has ill intent or is not concerned with the individual or the collective, all of us, we, start sending messages to people that do cause them to create harm, whether that's in our country or to themselves? How is that even monitored? Remember when people used to post videos of them doing crazy things on Facebook, and finally they stepped in and said, we have some screening. They hired all those people. Those people don't work there anymore. He got rid of all of them.
The fact checkers, yeah.
Yeah, they're all gone. So I don't know, because again, I screen my Facebook and I privatize as much as I can. So my big message for social media, I design my social media. I create the reality that I want to see. So I get rid of people. I block people. I snooze them. I create the reality. But if you don't do that, you're going to be bombarded with a lot of negative messages. And right now, to your point, there's no one that's actively saying you can't do this. Because actually it's going the opposite way. Because of the relationship with the tech bros, the big ones, Bezos and certainly Musk and all the other ones, Zuckerberg, they're cozying up to a president who's basically saying, you guys can do whatever you want. You're smarter than all the rest of us.
And is also cutting $1 billion worth of...
deals, yeah.
No. Well, I was going to say $1 billion worth of funding for mental health.
Yeah, at the same time.
Yeah.
Does that sound dangerous to you? Going back to your original question, yeah, this shit's dangerous. And I'm not confident that anyone's going to figure it out.
Because I was looking at this in comparison. So OpenAI is still going to be a nonprofit. It is right now, and there was talk of it becoming converting into a for-profit company, and it's going to stay a nonprofit company, which I think is good. But I know is good. But there's a whole other issue with the environmental impacts of every time. It's every time you basically ask ChatGPT a question, it's like pouring a bottle of water out. Have you heard this? So there's that concern, but at least the profit motivation is not there with OpenAI and ChatGPT.
Yeah.
The other stuff is where it's how are we not putting this together? That you are the product. Your data and the information you're giving here, even if you are still getting something out of, go make a friend. And I also am not convinced that this, despite whatever I guess the ending to her was, that this will teach you, the real human, how to have better social skills.
Yeah, it's a great ask and a great desire, but I just had this conversation with a friend, and she said she can't meet anybody.
Dating.
Yeah, well, dating in that sense, but she can't meet anybody in a traditional sense. Because, here's the other thing.
Like, she can't make friends?
She has some friends, but like more boyfriends she's talking about.
Okay.
Other than dating apps. And, I've heard some of the stories. Thankfully, I don't have to deal in that world.
But is she considering using AI?
She's considering a lot of things.
As a boyfriend?
When you're in your 50s, you don't want to spend the rest of your life alone. You're going to look at a lot of different ways to get to your goal, which is to find a match or a life partner for the rest of your life. Just to have someone you can actually relate to in the way that two human beings can relate to each other.
But is she considering a relationship?
She's considering anything.
With an AI chatbot?
She's considering everything.
Really?
She didn't specifically say that, but
Okay.
she's open to anything. So, you tell me. Wouldn't that not appeal to some people? And that's the dangerous thing part, because there's no review, no regulation. But you're going to open this up to people in this weird quest for friendship and or love relationships, and that's just going to be unchecked? And how dangerous is that? Is there a place for predators in there?
Oh, I'm sure.
Because they're already on dating apps, right? Thankfully, not the predominant users of those dating apps, because most people are thankfully still normal, or at least close to normal as anyone can be. I just worry about that stuff. And for me, easiest way is to regulate what I'm on, or stay away from the TikToks. I don't need it. I got enough. I have a relationship, so I'm not in that same ballpark, as are you.
Do you feel like you have enough friends?
I got plenty of friends. Plenty of friends. I'm a man of the people.
Meeting people in those streets.
On the streets, shaking those hands.
The last time someone just came up to you?
Last week, I was at a restaurant. Somebody came up to me, recognized my voice.
Oh.
Yeah. You'll understand.
It happens.
Yeah, because they hear our voices. Like I listen to this podcast. You watch it, right? Mm-hmm. I like to listen because you get the sense of what we're actually saying, and
you can watch it on YouTube. We should. I don't know if we always plug that.
Yeah, you can watch it wherever you get your podcasts, right? Yeah, you need to listen.
You need to listen.
Yeah, we need a new picture of us both doing that. Go ahead. There you go. And don't forget, we're gonna have a giveaway on this podcast
for Packers tickets.
For my Packer tickets outside, not inside, because that's way too expensive. Outside at Lambeau Field, sometime in the early season.
When does the schedule drop?
May 17th, I believe.
14.
Oh,
Thank you, producer Will.
Will, with his first appearance on the You Need to Listen podcast, who's got a big week.
Will, recent graduate.
Oh, yeah.
College grad.
How about that, everybody?
Are we done on this topic?
What was your original question? I'll tell you if we're done.
I guess there wasn't really an original question. I was just wanted to explore.
Am I worried?
How anyone thinks this is a good idea.
Put me in the not a good idea.
Yeah.
At the same time, big fan of technology. When it's regulated and controlled.
And I think that's the thing. It's like AI. Sorry, I keep interrupting you today, but you're being very patient. It's like I'm just worried. I think it's just having a young kid. I'm just worried as far as the reality of when you think about friendships and relationships, and I think about my own journey as far as like maturing into someone who is almost 40, and like the things that make me better is the conflict of real life relationships, right? It is the whether it's a friendship and having to understand someone else's point of view, whether it's in relationships and the relationships that failed that led me to my very successful relationship now. Like in all of that, it is like the bumping heads and the, for me, I would say the growth and evolution of like having to consider all of that. And I just don't imagine a world where you're going to get that from a bot that is developed for your personality, like to convenience you. And I think that was my take on this. And I got that out, but I just didn't know if there was more meat on the bone.
I'd put it this way. How is it possible that some entity that can literally know everything in a second can know so little about human relationships? And that's the reality.
But does it?
I think so. Because it just picks the hot topics. It doesn't necessarily discern what's right or wrong or what's proper or what's good for the individual. It just sort of collects these trends, which I think can be dangerous. That's
also
my
going to make you talk about it, like at least on Point Taken, like things making us dumber. This is going to make everyone dumber because it's going to do the work for you. Like we talk about. Because I showed it to you, the Linda McMahon letter to Harvard that Harvard's decision
poor Linda, she got
like,
written
all right,
up.
let me get my red pen out and then post
ugly.
it to social media of how your spelling, your grammar, your incomplete sentences. But it's like, we think kids can't spell and can't use grammar because of things like spell check and Grammarly now.
This is a stupid point, but I want to make it again because you kind of glossed over it before. When sex robots are a real thing, and that's for men and women.
They are a real thing. I mean, they've been a real thing.
I mean, really real. Like
I don't know. Have you
Ex
seen
Machina, real. You know the movie Ex Machina?
Yeah, but have you seen, what was the movie with Ryan Gosling?
Oh, that's the Blade Runner, the second one?
That's not the movie. There's a movie where he's the main character, and he has a girlfriend who is one of those sex dolls from that looks very real.
It's going to be hard to turn that switch off. Trust me. Yeah. So what do you know about relationship seeking? A lot of them just looking for sex. That's the reality.
There's a lot of men who are attracted to women but hate women. So what's the best answer to that? Get one who can't talk back.
Yeah. No, and to the lovers of Zuckerberg and Musk, only way
does anyone really love Zuckerberg?
Oh my God, I got friends that love Elon Musk.
No, Musk. I'm talking about, does anyone love Zuckerberg?
I don't know. Well, his wife does. She's very happy. The next richest man or woman in the world is the person that refines that sex robot industry and makes it feel like the real thing and look like the real thing. When that happens, you're talking trillionaire. That's my take on the future.
And also even lower birth rates.
No one's having sex with real people anymore. I wonder why that's going on. Because they got those sex robots that are amazing. Do you think we were going to go there?
I got nothing to add.
We got nothing to add to that. All right. Point taken.
Point taken. Our daily show,
Monday
Monday through Friday, 10 to 12. You can find it on WTMJ.com or our mobile app or wherever you get podcasts, just like this podcast.
Yeah, you need to listen. It's the hottest podcast in Milwaukee.
So the folks are saying.
Yeah, a lot of
folks on the streets are saying it's the hottest podcast.
When they're walking up to me at Herb's Mug in Oak Creek, that's what they're telling me. You need to listen. I say, I already know that. I did the damn podcast. Kristen Bry, Steve Scafidi. I say it. It's in the title. You need to listen. Now get to it. Episode 10. Couple weeks.
Yeah, episode 10, 2 weeks from now.
See ya.